Hello, everybody. We want to welcome you to today's webinar. It's going to be covering the SFP, or the Sustainability Facility Professional, where we're going to help future-proof your facilities and your career with the SFP. Don't forget to watch us on our YouTube channel, watch us on LinkedIn, like our video so that we can share it out to other facility managers such as yourself. And joining me today is Kim Coffey, our Senior Director of Professional Development. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Make sure to put in your comments. Tell us where you're joining us from. Gail and I are joining you from Houston, Texas.
And we also have Brianna and Elizabeth joining us behind the scenes, along with Daniela. And then today we have a special guest we are so excited to include on our webinar, Kathy Pavic. She oversees the development of training and the credentials here at IFMA, and she brings over 20 years of professional development with it.
Hi, everybody. It's great being here with you today.
Okay, well, let's dive right in. I'd like to remind everybody IFMA's vision and mission. We are a member organization. We've been around for over 40 years. Our entire mission is to lead the future of the built environment. So we've actually started defining what facility management is before that even existed as a term. We have over 22,000 members. We're in over 100 countries, and we hope to make the world a better place. And part of that is through, of course, sustainability. No matter where you are in the globe, that is a concern. Energy use, better management of all of our natural resources, and doing what we need to protect that planet. Next slide, please. So coming into why should you choose IFMA training? So we know that there are a lot of different options out there and it can get very confusing. So what we wanted to do is take a moment to show you how IFMA really adapts to your training needs. I'm going to let both Gail and Kathy jump in here, but let's start with what goes into building IFMA's training and credentials. Kathy, a little insight into that?
Yeah, I would love to, Kim. You know, I kind of always equate this a little bit to Texas, right? When you think of Texas, you always think of somebody's making some award-winning chili. And I always think, you know, well, IFMA is based out of Houston, Texas, and we always look at it as that we're creating an award-winning credential. And what does that take? Just as you're working on creating great chili, just as we are creating great content, you have to have the best recipe, the best ingredients for the best outcome. And so you oftentimes say, well, how do you get to that great recipe? And so this is something that we are very proud of doing, and it's something that we spend a considerable amount of time on, is the development piece. And so we look at doing our research. What's the analysis saying? What are our surveys saying? What are our focus groups in our interviews saying? And we take all of that, and when we pull that all together, we have our recipe. And then we kind of move from that recipe to saying, well, we need to have great ingredients. And what are those great ingredients that we need to make this an incredible program? And when you look at that, I really think this is where IFMA shines. This is where IFMA, as a not-for-profit association, has thousands of dedicated stakeholders. And those stakeholders are members, practitioners that are working in the industry every single day, such as yourselves. We also have the academic side. We work with the IFMA Foundation on the academic side. We also have a number of corporate sustaining partners. And when you really bring all those folks together, what you're really doing is creating a collectively all of these ingredients for the outcome to be what it is. And that's what it takes for us when we're building a program such as the SFP credential program and making the updates. That's what we consider goes into an award-winning credential program. And so when you look at this and you kind of move to thinking about what's cutting edge and what's going on, oftentimes you may say that it's the tool that you're also using and kind of lifting the lid off the pot of your chili. What is in what pot are you actually using? And we kind of say the same thing on the development side, is what are we using to really bring this content to you, to the learner? And we've invested significantly in that infrastructure. And one of the great things that we're doing, and we're starting to roll out a little bit, is what we call micro learning units. So this is an additional piece that we have the ability to bring to the learner as things start changing. There may be some new topic areas that are trending. What we like to do is bring these little new nuggets of information to you. They become supplemental nuggets to what we're offering in our credential programs and other training. They're oftentimes 1 to 3 learning objectives, approximately 5 to 15 minutes. So they're add-on pieces to what we're already offering in our programs. The other piece, and I'll kind of wrap this up on this slide, is the other piece that we talk about and you'll hear is being accredited. And the accreditation is such a critical part because it really, just as we have the Technical Committee 267 to develop FM standards, there are standards that we follow for content development. And we follow that ANAB ASTM 2659-18, which is our roadmap to creating incredible programs and programs that we believe bring great value for following best practices in the industry. So in a nutshell, there's a lot that's going on to ensure that we're creating that award-winning credential program for all of our learners.
And Kathy, one thing that's really impressed me as I've followed the progress, and you keep me up to date, right? Because we work very closely together, is the recurring global analysis. All of those stakeholders that you mentioned, this isn't a one and done process, right? There's a system, a strategy behind everything that IFMA is doing. And we don't just rest on our laurels and say, okay, we're done. The chili's done, enjoy. I think you're always looking at those stakeholders and saying, what else are you doing as an FM practitioner? And also all of the other things that we have at IFMA with our volunteer leadership and different committees and task forces to see what's emerging, what's a trend, and then what becomes a competency. So that has really impressed me in how we don't ever stop seeing how this profession evolves.
You're absolutely right, Kim, right? Because one of the best practices that we follow is that you're always analyzing, you're always looking at your design, your development, you implement, and then you're evaluating, and you're just going back through that cycle again. So it's a continued improvement, continued enhancements. That's a continuous process. So yes, when you look at this, just on this project alone, we had well over 30 individuals providing feedback from all different backgrounds, practicing facility managers in different regions, different facilities. We had professors who were looking and engaging in the conversation, in the review process. We had the development team, the production team. So it is a very comprehensive group that comes together to really pull together the program. And so it's a complete dedication on the behalf of a number of IFMA members and stakeholders, which we're very proud of.
Wonderful. So I would say for our listeners and viewers that have joined us today and may be watching the recording, IFMA really is adapting to your training needs. So we're not creating something that may or may not hit the mark in what you're trying to learn, but also as you're reviewing potentially other programs, try to see if you can take a peek into that recipe and that chili pot. Look under the hood, if you will. See how often updates are doing and are being completed, and just make sure that where you invest your time, that you really understand how that comes about. And so as we move into the next slide and we take a look at pathfinding. Gail, can you just kind of walk us through in general? And then, of course, I see the SFP highlighted, which is why we're here today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we do offer training on many different levels. Here at IFMA, we do want to be your lifelong training partner. So for those who are either in adjacent roles or are brand new to facility management, the Essentials is a really great beginning piece to help lay that foundation of what a facility manager can expect in their day-to-day. The FMP is a very good foundational credential because it will cover the basics that the facility manager should have under their belt whenever it comes to being that go-to facility manager. It also helps lay the foundation for some of our other programs. Our core competencies will help you fill any gaps of knowledge that you have on any of those that, or any of the 11 core competencies that create our body of knowledge. The SFP, like Kim alluded, we're going to go into further detail a little bit later. And then the CFM is going to help you demonstrate the mastery of those 11 competencies. So it'll help you showcase that you have the experience and knowledge to be that master facility manager. If you're not sure where to start, we do have our career compass. You can go to our website, ifma.org, and click on the career compass. And it's just a quick survey that's going to help us help you figure out what that path is for you. So if you're not sure where to start, click on there, take the survey. Somebody from our PD team will be reaching out, see where you started from, where you are currently, and what your goal is, so that we can just help kind of shape that path for you to help you really get started and can be that impactful facility manager at your organization.
Great. Thank you.
Then, so where did we start?
Okay. If you're watching this, you may be, where do I start with sustainability? First thing is ask yourself, what is my company culture? There's some bullet points here. Also, kind of do a self-assessment. How strong are you in the foundations of FM? You want to have a strong foundational knowledge if you're not familiar with a lot of the operations and maintenance that your building has as a requirement. If you're not familiar with the way that your company has set things up budget-wise, these are areas that you're going to want to be more strong in. And then, are you ready to learn more about sustainability? And Kathy, this is something that I know that you and your team really look at as you approach the training for sustainability.
Yeah, so, one of the things that we really, as Kim mentioned, it's when you're jumping into the SFP, the expectation is that you already have that foundational knowledge. So they're not going to try to fill in gaps that you may have already learned in something like the FMP or taking something like the finance and business class course. We're going to be adding on to that. So the expectation is that you're going to have that fairly strong base understanding so that when you start the SFP, then you can just pick up from there and move in to more specific areas. So we, again, strongly encourage you to kind of look at your background and look at the different options when you're deciding where should I start. And we'll talk a bit more about that as we move toward the program.
Exactly. The main thing here is for people to understand everyone is at a different point. Everybody has each one has a unique situation. And that's what we started talking about before, how IFMA adapts to your specific training needs. It's good for you to understand where you're at. And so where do you need to begin? And as we go into the next slide, there's a good place to start.
Yes. So if you're having any hesitations about jumping into the SFP credential, we do have this standalone sustainability course that's going to pretty much get your feet wet when it comes to sustainable practices. It has a high level overview. There's 6 chapters of content, and on average, it's about 5 study hours. Like I said, it's just going to get your feet wet on what sustainable practices are. And then from here, if you determine, what, the SFP credential is something that I'm interested in, it's my, next on my journey, this will lead you beautifully right into that. If this is where you maybe don't feel like you need to go through the SFP, that's okay too. You now have a separate foundation understanding of sustainable practices that everybody, I feel, should know. You can see here it does offer a digital badge to verify the knowledge that you learned through the sustainability course. And we do have downloadable PDF versions available for your reading. And then on our next slide, we will have the actual credential itself.
Yeah, so moving into the SFP, it is again knowledge-based, so be prepared to learn. It covers 3 areas or units for a total of 12 chapters. Very similar to the sustainability course, you're going to find the same study aids. You will find here, however, you'll have a final assessment after each chapter. Once you've completed the assessments after each chapter, which again, there's 12 chapters, then you will be eligible to apply for the credential. So it is about 46 to 67 study hours on average. Please remember, everybody comprehends and learns at a different rate. There's a lot of interactivity as well in this. Kathy, I don't know if this is the right place to kind of go into how there've been a little bit of change in the way that the e-learning and online materials are. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so it is different. If some of you have taken the FMP, this design has been changed a bit. So when you jump in and start the SFP, you do start with the e-learning, and then it drives you back to reading certain material, and then those materials will drive you back into going into the e-learning, and in going through some examples and going through some exercises based upon the content that has been that you've reviewed in the student manual. So they work in tandem together. It's not one or the other, but they work together and they balance each other out. So the intent of taking, reviewing the content, and then you start to apply some of that content. You start to increase, you're going from that knowledge to that understanding level as you're moving through some of those online exercises in the e-learning component. And so it's a holistic approach as you're going through that program, and with a number of real life examples that you'll see that actually help you go from thinking about it to doing it, as we say.
That's right. And Kathy, we did get one question here. Do you have the book bundle for SFP? So something that's not on our slide, Maria, is that there is optional printed book materials. Absolutely. And it would be for the entire SFP. The SFP is a credential on one of the 11 competencies, which of course is sustainability. So we do have those printed materials. They're available, and they're organized really well. We've added tabs that will separate out the chapters, so it's easier for you to navigate across those 3 units for each of those 12 chapters. So Maria, thank you so much for that question. Next slide, please.
So this is where the strategy meets implementation. So we all know the low-hanging fruit, right? We've gone in, we've changed out the light bulbs. So you're now, having LED light bulbs. You're drawing less energy, producing less heat from that bulb. Those are the easy fixes. This is going to help you. This credential is going to help you do so much more just looking at your facility as a whole. All the little nuances that help create your facility to be available for everybody who comes in. And that way you're going to be able to also, I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought here. You get to be the
harder.
Yeah.
Right. It's the more complex projects now. And what Gail's saying is it's every aspect of your facility. So the low-hanging fruit's been done. So what's next? And one thing that I'm going to touch on, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy because she has some great insight also into these updates. I just want to reinforce obtaining additional knowledge is going to help your confidence level increase, and you're going to be more comfortable in having a voice. And we believe that every FM needs to have a voice in this. Everybody, the FMs are our change agents, right? And Kathy, I'm going to turn this over to you because I know that there's a lot that you've incorporated, and we're going to go into it in future slides. But just introducing the updates, I'm going to let you take it
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah, and we can probably move on to the next slide. I can bring this in. When you really look at the 12 chapters that we have it broken down, as Kim mentioned, into 3 different units. When you look at the unit names, I would say that they're a little bit more generic, just to help us bucket, right? But again, when you look at this SFP, people will ask, is it strategic or is it operational tactical? And our response is it's both. You're starting at that strategy level and you're taking it all the way down to an action plan. And so it's giving you all the skills and tools needed to address your specific demand organization's needs. And so, you can't create a one size fits all. The goal is that we're giving you all the resources and all the education and skills that you need to be successful for your particular needs. And so you'll look at all the different chapter topics, and I will hone in on the unit 2, where you're looking at analyzing the sustainable solutions, because that's a very hefty section of the program when you're looking at the energy, the water, the materials. Kind of moved off my screen a little bit. So you're looking at that from all of those 5 different key areas. And then when you look at some of the new things that are happening, circular economy, the UN sustainable goals, those have all been introduced into the overall credential. And so there are things, and they're threaded throughout. So it's not where it's just where you may see it and then it's done. It may come back again as you're moving through each of these areas. And so that's, we keep bringing it back to the triple bottom line. So when you look at this from a holistic approach, and I've kind of mentioned this is just really the beginning, right? Our goal is to get you on the right path. But we know that this is not a one and done. IFMA has a number of different opportunities for you to be able to expand on. We know that this next step is going to be a challenge for all of us. We're seeing it in everything we're reading. It's just going to be a heavy, what I call a heavy lift, but we have the profound ability to change and to make those changes. And if we just go to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about where we really honed in on the content development was with the operations and maintenance. And we know operations and maintenance is the highest weighted competency in our overarching of our 11 competency areas. So we spent particular attention in this area, and you will see that as you're going through the credential program. When you look at the O&M on the day-to-day kinds of things, just on the operations and maintenance of the HVAC systems, all the way to improving your efficiencies of your existing systems. So we did look at that closer alignment and really tighten that up. But the other big area was on the energy piece. Chapter 5 is goes into a number of different energy topics, just as the purchasing, the sources, the differences between what we have on here, the consumptions and the demand. So it gets down into the things that you really need to know.
And I think that's absolutely critical. And we're seeing some questions coming in. I do want to encourage those of you that are watching this live, please go ahead and put in your questions. We will be having time for Q&A. So don't worry, we do see your questions and we will absolutely make time for them. Daniela, if we can go to that next slide. So with this, I'm going to introduce this over to Gail, but think about framework. So Gail, tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So now that you're on that right path, right, that Kathy was just talking about, you've earned your credential, you have that framework. Let's develop that strategy to get your facilities where they need to be. Then your next step is a communication plan. Get with your leadership, get with your team, make sure that everybody's on the same page of understanding the whys. Why are you doing this? Once your communication plan is going strong, that's going to help you identify those initiatives. What do you need to do? Okay, so we've already changed out the light bulbs. Check. Next step is X. So let's figure that out. And then the last step is going to be reporting. So what's measured gets monitored, gets managed. That's how you know that, okay, this is what we're changing. We're watching that report. We're making sure that, okay, this is what we've implemented. Is it working? We should be seeing a change in everything: cost for your company, cost for the building. We should be seeing changes in just everything that you have gone into for your development strategy.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here that really jump out at me, and that is communication and reporting. I think that with the pandemic, FMs really saw the need for clear communications. They were really challenged in how do you communicate to the various stakeholders within the facility, and then reporting on it. What is it that you're doing? Have you made a difference? And with sustainability, that's critical because some of these more complex changes that you're going to be advocating, it could be for your building management system, that could have a high cost, but then to be able to show the return on your investment, your ROI, as well as report on the changes that have occurred is going to be critical. And I think getting everybody's buy-in is also a factor. So these 4 points here will help make your framework, but your framework is not start here, end here. It should be thought of a little bit more circular because you want to continue to develop strategy as you complete different projects and look at what's next and how can you keep going. But you're also going to be tying into the C-suite because they may have ESG. Some of us, that's a buzzword that's coming out. How do you report into that? What part do you as a facility manager play? So let's go into that next slide, Daniela, as we continue our conversation. And as you're setting strategy, as you're setting your initiatives and what you're going to be doing, and you're communicating and you're reporting, what can help with that? Kathy, I'm going to turn this over to you because this is completely new for what IFMA is providing to the
Yeah,
learners.
this is actually very exciting. This is a new feature that we developed. It's optional. However, it is truly a live learning lab. And so this will be provided. There are up to 12, could be 14, 15, because some of the chapters may need more than one actual live learning. And it's facilitated by a live instructor. Participants are live. You're engaged in a number of scenario types of activities. And so when you're participating in the live learning lab, this is based upon you already going through and studying the materials, doing the e-learning component, and then electing to participate in this optional live experience. And I have to tell you, I went through all of them, and it's amazing to see what happens as individuals, as students start going through them. You're working with your peers, you're taking the concepts and you're moving it into more of that application level. The information and the examples and the experience that are coming out of this learning lab is amazing. And so I would really encourage everybody to strongly consider taking and actively participating in the learning lab piece. They are designed to be approximately 90 minutes in session, but there is highly interactive. And so, the expectation is that you're going to come in and you're going to take what you already learned and you're going to be able to expand on that. And it's amazing what you're going to learn from your peers throughout each of these sessions. And so we got some incredible comments back throughout the pilot project that individuals couldn't wait to actually for the next one to come. So we know that it's a great experience, and we would like you to consider engaging in these, because I think you're going to find that this brings it all together for you.
Yeah, and Kathy, I'd like to add too, at World Workplace, when our SFP instructors were sharing the updates with the attendees there that were in the session, the question from one is, it really helps to have this interactive or virtual piece with an instructor to keep that person honest, right? And moving through the material and having the opportunity to ask questions. So I think it's important to note here, the learning lab is not to teach you the material. It is required that the student read the material before you attend the session for that chapter. And I'm going to say that again. You have to read the material. This is not intended to spoon feed the material in the chapter to you. You will be engaged, as Kathy said, you will be asked to participate. It will actually help lock in and comprehend and understand and learn what you read by going through the learning lab, because you're taking it from that theory into application and learning from your peers. Everybody in that learning lab is going to have a different background and a different need, and you're going to learn from one another and your network will expand. So this is, again, IFMA is interested in you learning, achieving your SFP, but also building a network that helps support you, because that's what IFMA as an association for FMs really is all about. Cool. Let's go to the next slide, Daniela. Oh, I love this question. Who should pursue the SFP? I'm going to take this one. Every FM, everybody. So take a look at these bullet points. Everybody should, but should everybody jump into the SFP right away? Kathy, what do you think?
No, you do want to do a little bit of a self-assessment before jumping in, but there's many different avenues that you can take, and so it really depends on your unique needs. And we're happy to help walk you through that.
Exactly. So that kind of puts some context around that first answer, every FM, but you're on your individual journey of learning, and the SFP will come into play once you have that solid foundation. Gail, there's something that is on this slide that I would love for you to point out. If I take that sustainability course that we first covered, am I out of money if I decide to go for my SFP?
You are not. We're actually going to match dollar for dollar and give you credit towards the SFP for what you spent on that standalone sustainability course. Again, that's just our way of helping you to make sure that, yes, this is the right track. This is where I want to be for my organization, by showing that I have this interest and want to take the power of boosting my facility to that next level. So we do want to offer that to you as well.
Yeah, and I realized I kind of sounded like a used car salesman. You're not
Not
going
at
to lose
all.
your money. But it's a valid question, right? There's finite resources, and some of our learners, they have to pay out of pocket. Some, even if it's their company paying, there's a budget, and that might prevent somebody else from getting the training they need. IFMA takes this very, very seriously. So all kidding aside, as wherever you are on your learning path, do start with the sustainability course. Get your feet wet, as Gail said before. Understand what the strategies are, the concepts within facilities, and then when you're ready, move towards your SFP, because that should be something every FM aspires to.
Yes. So what is on the next slide?
Well, let's see.
All
Oh,
right.
I love this one.
I do too.
Okay, so and we've got some questions and we'll pop them up, but Lead AP has absolutely popped up. There's certificates for buildings and there's certificates for people. So Kathy, as you're looking at this, what comes to mind?
Well, I think what you're really looking at is your overarching strategy. When we look at the SFP, we look at someone who's earning the SFP as looking at the total strategy, right? So you may be pursuing the lead certification and need certain pieces to fill in part of that strategy. So it's really about looking at the total roadmap. And so we see that SFP as kind of that kind of overarching person that's building in those pieces that they want and that they feel that they need for their particular situation. So it's really about that strategy again, and identifying where you're going on your roadmap. Where's your demand organization going in their strategic initiatives, and then building your plan and the training and the resources that you need to be successful.
Exactly. And for the individual, if you earn the SFP, you're going to be able to apply strategy no matter what the building is. If it's one that is 70 years old, or for those of joining us from outside of the U.S., if it's 500 years old, really being able to find those ways to create projects that will create additional sustainability and energy savings. Everybody, we're in an energy crisis, and it just behooves all of us to figure out how to be more, how to conserve energy, how to use it more efficiently and smarter. So this is something that you can take with you no matter where you are. And we are about advancing the profession. But I believe personally, IFMA helps advance the profession, each person, by through the actions of each person. The more critical role that FMs play, the better it advances the profession. And FMs should be at the table. They should be at the table with the architects, with the engineers, with the interior designers, because ultimately, at the end of the day, this building gets handed over to those facilities teams. And to prevent costly mistakes, you guys need to be at the table. So heading into the next slide.
And that is our challenge.
There you go.
That's perfect. That is our challenge, because we do want you to have that seat at the table. That's going to help you be able to think globally while acting locally. That was perfect lead into that. You are the profound impact that has that opportunity to protect our home, to conserve those natural resources. Earning the SFP will help you understand what you can do within your facility to affect the global crises that are happening all around us every day. So join our global peers in leading that change. And then I think our last slide will be an available savings or discounts that you can take. So when you go in to make your purchase, whether it's the sustainability course or any of the standalone courses, or if you join in to take the actual SFP credential or even the FMP credential, you can use these two codes to apply discounts. So sustainable 50 or sustainable 100, and then that'll take the monies off of each program respectively. And remember, you don't have to be a member of IFMA to take advantage of the training that we do offer.
These discounts are good through the 14th of November. We want to give people a chance to review this recording and to thank them for that time, and to encourage you, as that previous slide said, our challenge to you is become more knowledgeable, gain that experience or expertise that you can take to your teams and to your organization, and make suggestions to have a better tomorrow. So, all right, guys, I've been watching some of these questions coming in. I'm going to pick one of these because I appreciate that Jose is an FMP and an SFP, and he's asking, if you earn the SFP prior to this update, do you need to repurchase it in order to get the updated version? Kathy or Gail?
You do not. So you will have 6 months of enrollment into the new version so that you can get in there, read what the updates are, and just have that opportunity to see what has been updated content-wise.
Yeah. So we'll be providing that. We haven't set that timeline yet, but we'll be working with Kim's team to set that up so you'll have access to the materials. It won't include the assessments and so forth since you've already earned the SFP, but the goal is for you to be able to have access to that content, both the student guide and the e-learning component.
That's right. If you would reach out to training@ifma.org, Danielle, if we could pop that email address up there. If you're a current SFP holder, you're seeing this, please reach out to training@ifma.org and we will get that to you. We want you to take advantage of the learning. And now that we have the learning lab, I would also say that that would be a great way, just as a refresher, if you would like to participate in that, having access to the new SFP materials will give you the ability to read through those chapters and participate in the learning labs if you would like to. That's your option. It is something that we feel is brand new that IFMA is bringing to this market segment. If you've done the virtual FMP courses, it's very different. The FMP courses, they do have a live instructor, but it is more about covering the concepts of those chapters, and it doesn't have that interactive working together participation that these learning labs do. That's why we're not calling it a virtual SFP class. These are SFP learning labs. So thank you, Jose. I'm glad that you asked that question. This one I think is really interesting as well. From Richard, has the SFP content been updated with case studies?
Yes. We've had lots of new, lots of updates, Richard. Just a quick response is yes. The case studies, the examples, spent a lot of time with the development team and had lots of individuals submit great ideas and insights into those for us from the development standpoint. So
perfect. And then Dean has asked, how is the SFP different from the lead AP operations and maintenance? And then why is the SFP more appropriate for the FM? If it is, Kathy?
Well, I think, it goes back to looking at the SF, the facility managers looking at it from a totality standpoint, right? So I see other things that may be able to complement and be part of their overall strategy. And so it's not one or the other. I think it's that you need, as we say, every facility really needs to have someone with their SFP. They really need to be someone in there driving that strategy and then identifying where there may be additional areas that they need to supplement that, to bring and to deliver on their overall strategy.
And Dean also had another comment. I think this is when we were talking about the learning lab and interaction with peers. And I just think it's a really important observation.
Yeah, I agree. I saw that, Dean, that you had put that out there, and completely agree that, one size does not fit all by any means. And this is being able to share experiences and knowledge and backgrounds. And so that's why we really look at that learning lab as really putting the icing on the cake, so to speak. If you can invest that time into it, I think you're going to see the outcome to be very valuable to not only you professionally, but to your organization. So I would encourage you to take a look at that, but completely agree with you on that.
Okay, excellent. And I think that there's some additional frequently asked questions that, Daniela, if you wouldn't mind popping those up so the team can take those. This is a good reminder about how long does it take to complete the SFP?
So on average, it's going to be around 47 to, I think, 60 hours, just depending on your comprehension level. So it's going to be a little bit of effort on your part, but it'll be totally worth it once it's completed and you've got that credential behind you.
And Gail, I would add to that, if you elect to participate in the live learning labs, there will be some additional hours on that. So just to we do have a suggested study guide that I believe we'll be making available to individuals. And so it kind of helps you map out a plan.
Perfect.
And then Matthew, I think, has added a question here, and I'm going to assume that it means, how does the SFP relate to ESG? And I want to say it's the S in ESG. Kathy?
Well, ESG is brought up in our content. So we're constantly bringing that back in. ESG is evolving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's still something that is being, as I say, no perfect answer yet. Everybody's trying to navigate this. And actually, when with Dean is working on a trending project with a number of volunteers, and this is a topic that's coming up, and trying to get Yeah, exactly.
It evolves, right? It's not just sustainability,
Exactly.
it's
Right.
environment.
Yeah, so there is a lot moving on this topic, right? So I don't know if any of us has the exact perfect answer. What we're doing is introducing it to you and we're building into it. But this goes back to what I was talking a little bit about in the earlier part of the conversation about creating micro learning units. As that topic evolves, we have the ability to create smaller snippets of content to further supplement it as it evolves in the market. So it's a moving target, I guess I would say, as to how and where this lands for all the different stakeholders. But it is, we start bringing it into play in the SFP.
And I would like to just also remind people watching this, IFMA, as your Association for Facility Management, we have other resources available. The FMJ is our publication, comes out every other month. It's filled with original articles, and it's going to focus on these different emerging topics as they come out. So beyond the official training and development or a credential, make use of those other resources that IFMA provides its members and out to the profession itself. The FMJ, you can read that every issue and archived issues on ifma.org. You can access it. We also have our knowledge library. We have, communications that we send to our members. So this may be something that, oh, thank you so much, Daniela. Different resources that help you transition to sustainability. There's multiple sources of information, but as Kathy said, we're coming out with these micro learning units because we want to clearly communicate what are the learning objectives, what will you know when you're through going through this, and how is this going to add to your knowledge. So this is really important. And then this is a good time to talk about our community for environmental stewardship, the utilities and sustainability community, affectionately called ESIS, because let's face it, that was a mouthful. But what they talk about is incredible, and it's so important, and it gives you a chance to speak with others who are really engaged in this conversation. So please, take a look at that and learn from it. Absolutely. And thank you, Dean. Yes, FMJ March, April 2023 is sustainability. So that will be one to watch out for as well.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of bring it all together, as we mentioned, this is not, earn the SFP and you're done. This last slide is really what I consider pivotal, because you're really looking at this and saying, the challenges that we face are not going to be simple, easy, and we're going to need the community, our FM community, to really find those solutions. And so some of the biggest challenges that you may have to tackle within your facility, your solution may be within any number of outlets within IFMA. So that's what makes it so great, is that we see those challenges, but we also see the opportunities. And this is how we come together as a community and how we can give back to ensuring that you can be successful in wherever you're at in this environment.
Exactly right. Daniela, anything else? Any other questions, frequently asked questions that we haven't covered? Oh, I love that one.
We actually do. If you have any questions about group training, just send it to corporateconnections@ifma.org, and somebody on our team will definitely be reaching out to you to tell you what those options are. If you have any questions in general, you can also send them to this corporateconnections@ifma.org so that we can help you out.
Yeah, at
We're
this
always
point,
available.
that's right. We have a whole team that's here. We have a credentials team that will talk with you about the CFM. That's always a really popular question on our PD webinars. That will kind of look at your career path. That was something that Gail mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, was the career compass. We're here to help support you. We want to make sure that we meet you at your training needs, and that we know one size does not fit all. Everybody is on a unique journey, and we just appreciate so much everybody joining in. If there's something that we did not cover or answer in this webinar, please reach out to us at corporateconnections@ifma.org. It's showing right there, down there in the chat. I like to do that. And we'll be happy to follow up with you. If you would, a little bit of housekeeping, please like this video, help other FMs find the solutions that they may be looking for with your participation of liking what we're doing. And with that, I thank Kathy so much for joining us. Gail, thank you for your support, and everybody have a fantastic day.
Thank you, everybody.
Great day, everyone.